Hello, Enid. I'm Derek, the Director of Communications for the City of Enid, and with me today is the Mayor of the City of Enid, George Pankonin.
Yep. Hi, how are you?
All right, very good.
Good.
I want to thank you for joining us today and joining the community today to talk about a recap of the City Commission meeting. But when speaking about this, let's talk a little bit about generally the process. Many people may not even know about how a City Commission meeting and a study session goes. Let's talk about the process.
Okay. Well, we generally always start with a study session. We leave about an hour and a half to be able to do that. What the study session is designed to do is not to conduct business of the city. We can't approve anything. We're not taking any motions or anything like that. But it's the staff's opportunity to be able to brief the commissioners and the mayor on upcoming events or things that are in process, in work. Maybe new ordinances that have been passed by the state that we're considering to implement also within the city, anything like that. One of the, I guess a good example is the Call Lake project. We've had that in study sessions quite often. So while it's an ongoing project and we don't have to really approve anything day to day for things that are going on, we still expect to get a briefing periodically to let us know what the status is. How many of the properties have been purchased that we're going to be using to put the pipeline in, design status, engineering status. So it gives the contractors a chance to be able to update the commissioners and the mayor on what's going on with that. So that's what the study session is used for. It's relatively informal. People can come. It's open to the public like anything that we do. It's always advertised in advance. We always post what the agenda is going to be, what the discussion items are. So if it's something of interest to a particular citizen, they can look at it and say, you know, I don't need to go every week, but I'm interested in that topic, so I want to come and see what's going on and find out. So that's what the study session does. After the study session, we'll depending on how much time we have, we'll probably take at least a short break and then go into the regular session for the meeting. When we get to the regular session of the meeting, we always kind of follow a typical agenda. We'll first call the meeting to order. We'll find out whether or not we have a quorum, because that's a requirement for the Open Meetings Act. So we'll take roll call and make sure that we have enough people to conduct business. To conduct business, we need to have 4 people, at least 4 people there, 3 commissioners and the mayor, and you can have more than that, but you got to have at least that to be able to have a quorum. Second thing that we'll always do is the invocation and flag salute. We ask local pastors in the city to take a turn at providing the invocation. So we give them the opportunity to do that. For the flag salute, it's usually just mayor's choice. I'll look around the room and find somebody that hasn't done it that I'd like to give an opportunity to do that and ask them if they would do the flag salute for us. Last night, for example, I asked Colonel Simmons. He's the wing commander at Vance Air Force Base. And last night he tries to come to every single council meeting, but last night was his last council meeting before he leaves. So as a way of kind of a tribute, I asked him if he would do us the honor of doing the pledge last night, and of course he did. From there we go into the first thing that you talk about as far as real business is minutes from the last meeting. So what usually will happen is there'll be a motion to accept the minutes, a second. After that, I'll call for any discussion. So if somebody notices, one of the commissioners notices, hey, you had the date wrong on that, it should have been 2020 and they had 2002. Mm-hmm. They can bring that up. We make an official correction to the minutes at that time. And then all the commissioners and the mayor vote on it. After the vote is done, then I formally announce what the vote was. So if 6 people were for the motion, this is true of all motions, but if 6 voted in favor and 1 voted against, that's the time to be able to do that and officially, publicly record that. Okay. After minutes, the next thing on the agenda is always awards and presentations. It gives us and the city manager a chance to be able to recognize city employees, Maybe they've been with City of Enid for 15 years and they have an award they'd like to present, or they're retiring. But it gives us an opportunity on the agenda to be able to officially recognize people that have been important in helping Enid over the years. One of the other things that we did last night was consider appointments to several different commissions. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit, because that really is the citizens' opportunity to begin to serve the city if they wish to do so. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of commissions, whether you're interested in trees, or if you want to be on the park board, or Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, maybe interested in helping out with the library, be on their board. There's all kinds of boards and commissions that you can serve on. They're always advertised in the paper. We always do a good job of advertising those. And at the during the meeting, what'll happen is if 5 people have signed up for a position and there's 2 positions open, then the commissioners and mayor have to decide on which 2 to select out of the 5 that are there. Everybody submits, and we see the application that they put in advance. They're also given an opportunity to talk. So they can present their case to the commission publicly, and that gives us a chance to review those folks and decide which ones to select for each committee. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to say that, you know, not everybody's going to get selected. If you have 5 people apply and there's 2 openings, that means 3 didn't do it. That's not a sign of not being successful. That's a sign of you stood up. Somebody else may have been better for that particular appointment. That don't give up. There are lots of committees, lots of commissions, and sometimes you have 5 people sign up for 3 slots. Sometimes you have 1 person sign up and there's 1 slot available. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you might not be picked up the first time. The next paragraph usually is administration, and we cover several different things under administration. Last night, for instance, we had a lot of the items were funds transfers. What happens when we approve the budget at the beginning of the fiscal year? We say how much can be spent in each area all the way across the city's budget line. The city is required to stay within the budget that they have for each area. And when we get toward the end of the year, what happens sometimes is you're not really sure how much you're going to need, or you need a little bit more in this pot, and there's a little bit too much in that pot, so the city may need to transfer some money from one pot to another to cover obligations. Well, they can't do that without the authority of the commission. So that's what a lot of those were, a lot of the reallocations of money were last night. And it happens at the end of fiscal year. Mm-hmm. So it's just a way of being able to do that. Let's see, what are some of the other things? So that's kind of the administration portion. Generally, we have something called a consent agenda. Now, consent agenda, for those, is kind of a way to speed up business. It's items that are thought to be non-controversial, but routine business that still has to be approved by the commission and the mayor. But they'll put it, the city will put that in the consent agenda item area. Now, they can put it there if they want to, but any one of the commissioners or the mayor can say, I want to take it off the consent agenda. I want to look at that separately because I have a question on that item. So if it's something that there is contention about, any commissioner or the mayor can pull that off the consent agenda item. But in fact, what it does is it lets you take, last night we had 14 items on the consent agenda item. Well, consent agenda. We would have had to individually talk about each one of those, get a motion, a second, discussion, a vote, record the vote for each one of those 14 items. Since they were on the consent agenda item, nobody wanted to pull anything from the consent agenda item. All the commissioners look at it in advance, so they know what the items are. They didn't have any problem with it, so you can do all 14 items at one vote. So that's what happens there. It's just a more effective way of being able to conduct a meeting. Okay. The next thing that people probably notice is, well, it's the city commission. How come they're recessing and convening to go into Enid Municipal Authority and they do all that? Mm-hmm. Well, there's several different authorities that are made up and all the commissioners and the mayor serve on those different authorities. So we have to consider those items and do the business of each of those items independently from each other. So that's why we do that. So if they're wondering why that happens, that's why that happens.
When it comes to public comments, can you talk about public comments?
Yeah, and when we get done with the entire meeting, and we'll adjourn to convene as the different authorities, and eventually we work our way back to adjourn and reconvene as the city commission. Mm-hmm. Right after that is when we do public comments usually. Now, we've made one exception recently where we had a lot of people that showed up early, and because of COVID-19, we wanted to clear the room out as quickly as we could, not have people standing there for hours in that kind of environment. So we moved it up. But typically, public comment is kind of right at the end of the agenda. People can sign up for an individual topic if they want to. If so, if it's item number 7 on the agenda that they want to talk about, they can sign up and say, I want to talk about item number 7. It's rezoning that affects my area. We'll let them talk at that time. If they don't say what topic they want to talk about, then they just can do public comments at the end. So I'll usually go in order. We usually have a time limit because we just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to talk and we don't have any grandstanding or anything like that. But you can talk about anything you like. Now, one of the things that's a little bit unusual, and people might wonder, well, you know, I talked for 5 minutes about this issue that it's really important to me. Everybody shook their head like they knew what I was talking about, and nobody did anything. Well, in the Open Meetings Act, if you don't have something published on the agenda, a topic, then you're not allowed to discuss or take action on that topic at that meeting. You can take it for information, and you can bring it up in a next agenda item, in a future meeting, but you can't discuss or do business on an item that's not published on the agenda. So it's not to be rude, it's to comply with the law. That's why we do that. Okay. So once in a while, and not every time, we'll go into executive session. That's usually done after public comments. And what we'll do is adjourn, and the only ones that are allowed in that are people that are the commissioners, the mayor, the city manager, city attorney, and whoever is briefing the board. Typically, executive session can only be done for a few narrowly defined topics. You can't do business outside of the public eye. But for instance, if you're talking about an employee's salary or a performance report, well, you don't do that in public. So you might discuss that during executive session. But if at the end of that you need to dismiss a person, or you need to give a person a raise, or extend the contract for an employee, you have to do that in open session. So after the executive session, we come back in, reconvene the board, and then make a motion, a second, make the discussion, and then vote on it. So you're not doing any voting in the executive session. It's just to be able to discuss certain narrow topics that are allowed by law. Okay? So that's kind of the general thing, and that's kind of what happened last night. Derek has asked me to consider doing this on a regular basis, and I think we'll do that. Instead of me always doing that, what I'd like to do is share that opportunity with the other commissioners. So I think that's what we'll do, is after each meeting, we're going to try and publicly go on and say, okay, here's the 4 things that were really controversial last night. Want to be able to explain that, and we'll get on TV and let everybody hear what we're saying. Not everybody gets a chance to come, but I would like to encourage people to come if they can to the city commission meetings. I think we've recently had people come for the first time, especially young people, and they're really enthusiastic about it. They understand how government works. It really opens people's eyes to how the government works. Anyway, I would encourage people to come to that, and also encourage you to consider serving on a committee. Consider serving your community.
Well, I want to thank you, Mayor, for joining us today, just to give us a general review of how the commission meeting and study session is done, executive
Okay.
sessions, and a lot of people didn't know the information, weren't educated of how that process works.
Right.
And I think that's good information for the public to kind of understand how that works.
All right.
So after each commission meeting, we'll try to get either yourself or another commissioner here
Yeah.
to explain, to give a recap of what actually happened in the
Yeah.
last meeting. So this time we did more of a general process of
Yeah.
what it is, but
Yeah.
we'll continue this, and I think it'll be good for the community.
I do too.
And as you stated, there are various ways to get involved, for the public to get involved. They can serve on a commission. And they can even run for a commissioner seat
They sure
or mayor
can.
seat,
Yep.
you know, in the future. And there's various other ways, of course, voting. And they can be advocates for specific community projects. For instance, we're going to be, the community is doing the sports, what's the name of the sports center over,
Oh, the soccer complex?
the soccer complex.
Yep.
So you can advocate, you can get groups,
Yeah.
community groups can get together and raise funds to do things. There's all kinds of ways to do things for the community.
Right.
And I appreciate you encouraging the rest of the community to just get involved.
Yeah.
Even getting involved can be just coming and making a public comment about
That's
an
right.
item. Because sometimes, as you stated last night, the commission doesn't really know every aspect about everything going on in everybody's community or street unless they
Right.
come and tell them.
Right.
It's because it's more of them than it is of you. So
Right.
you
Right.
know, so if they come and let us know about what's going on, then you guys can look at it and see what you can do about it.
Yep.
So thank you for your information and thank you
All
for
right.
coming.
Good. All right. Appreciate
Thank
the
you for
opportunity.
joining us, Enid, and join us here again on a future date after commission meeting for recap. Have a great rest of your day.